Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of the Royal Roundup today, where perhaps I'm not in the most glamorous background in London, but we are joined by Richard Palmer, Daily Express's royal correspondent, who is live from Royal Ascot today. Richard, hello.
Hello there.
So you can see just behind you, you've got the grandstand, haven't you?
Yes. So, I'm on the other side of the race track. Looking forward to what I hope will be a great day's racing and some good royal watching as well. We've got
Absolutely.
We've got the Prince and Princess of Wales coming today, joining the King and Queen and others in the royal party. So it should be good fun.
It should be. I was there on Wednesday, and the King and Queen were there then. They were there every day this week, if I'm correct in thinking.
Yeah, they've been here every day so far. Yes, yeah. And we wondered about that. I think everybody we've spoken to this week has been saying that it's, obviously it's a new reign, a new world. We didn't quite know whether the King and Queen would show the same sort of passion for this event that Queen Elizabeth II did, but so far they certainly have. And
look, all these pictures which have been coming out, they genuinely look like they're having a good time, and very emotive there. Of all angles, we've really done them well for that one. But yeah, I mean, they obviously genuinely do really enjoy it, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think in so many respects, Elizabeth II is a really hard act to follow. And racing, as everybody knows, was her real passion. And I think it's probably fair to say that that King Charles and Queen Camilla don't quite have the same obsession with the sport that she had. But they've really got the bug for it. And of course, yesterday they had their first winner, which has transformed things. I think it was, if I'm being truly frank about it, there was a. I suppose you have to qualify. You have to qualify things. I've been coming since I think 2004, 2005, something like that. I think my first one was actually at York, because they moved Royal Ascot to York for a year while they were redoing the stands here. But every year I've come, the photographers have been saying, "Oh, it's not the same as it was. You don't have quite the Hollywood stars that we used to have, or whatever." But it's still a really big event, and I'm never quite sure whether that is just looking back at the past with rose-tinted specs. But there was this feeling, I think, at the start of the week that there wasn't quite the same buzz about it. That when the royal carriages went down the straight mile, as they call it, and the crowd saw them, there were cheers, but not quite the same enthusiastic cheers as when Queen Elizabeth was there.
I have to say that too. I mean, I was there on Wednesday, and I was in the Queen Anne closure, and they came round, and when it used to be the Queen, and I was there when the Queen was alive, everyone would stop. But it didn't seem, from my perspective, everyone was stopping their conversation. I mean, they were intrigued, but they didn't hang around for it.
Yeah, you're probably right. But what I was going to go on to say was that in spite of all of that, I think yesterday really transformed things. And there was such a buzz here yesterday. I mean, there always is on Gold Cup Day on the Thursday, and it's Ladies' Day as well. Yeah. So you have all the outlandish hats and outfits. And the crowd just went absolutely wild when the King and Queen's horse, Desert Hero, won the King George V Stakes. And, you have to try and put this in perspective. In her 70-year reign, the Queen had 24 winners at Royal Ascot. So to get one in the first year of his reign, really, effectively, is pretty good going. And this sort of, which is actually what the Queen. I think the Queen's first winner, Queen Elizabeth II's first winner, was in 1953. So just after her coronation. So she's been on the throne well over a year, but So King Charles is mirroring her in that sense, I guess. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on Charles to sort of fill these big boots?
Well, very, very much so, I think, and I think it didn't escape anybody's notice that he wasn't at the Derby at Epsom a month or so ago, and in fact, no senior members of the royal family were there. I think Zara was there, but she's not a working royal. And, that really did make you think, well, is he really that invested in this sport? And the sport desperately needs the support and patronage of the royal family. But Royal Ascot is different because it's the Crown Estate that owns the land, and the Ascot Authority leases the racecourse from the Crown Estate. But it's very much a royal event, a royal meeting. Queen Anne started the whole tradition, so it goes back hundreds of years, and they've really lived up to it this week, I think, Charles and Camilla, and they've brought there's been a big royal turnout, as was predicted by several senior aides beforehand. I think, I think many people would have hoped that Prince and Princess of Wales might have been here earlier on in the week as well, but I think it looks as like once every year is their limit for this, but they'll be here today. And they're making one of the trophy presentations. It's been great, actually. I mean, it always gets huge coverage, obviously, in the sports pages, but on the news side, it's just lots of colourful pictures. It's a picture story, really, lots of colourful pictures. But yesterday,
and everything.
Yes. And yesterday, but we did have a genuine story in a first winner for the new reigning monarch.
Yeah, and those pictures were just incredible. The moment that they got caught on camera. But do you think this is obviously Charles very much got brought up surrounding the equine scene, as it were? But is it the same for Camilla? Is this as natural for her?
Yeah, I mean, I think she has been more closely involved than her husband in many ways for a number of years. Well, certainly on the jump side, on the National Hunt side, she really took over the reins from the Queen Mother and became the royal patron, the royal supporter of jump racing. So she's been going to Cheltenham for many years now, the Cheltenham Festival. But this is the premier flat racing event in the world, I would say, and they've embraced it with gusto. And you could see what it means to them. Those pictures, I mean, some people felt that the king was in tears or close to tears, whatever. You could certainly see how emotional they were about it yesterday. And how the family were. I mean, Zara was talking to ITV Racing afterwards, which has the broadcast rights here, and she was saying that it was a bittersweet moment, that and her thoughts immediately turned to her late grandmother and how excited she would have been at the prospect of them winning yesterday.
It was a personal win as well, on an emotive note, definitely.
Yes.
I just saw a big police van go past you. In terms of security, there is it because there's obviously you've got the king and queen there and various other members of the royal family. Is there a big security presence?
Yeah, there is quite a big security presence. I don't know how many police there are here, but there's quite a lot of there's a lot of uniformed officers. Obviously, you have the personal protection officers for the individual members of the royal family. What you also have here, which you see increasingly in the UK, but it's not a common day event, is armed police, police armed with submachine guns patrolling the grounds, patrolling the car parks. It's a high-profile event with some very high-profile people here. So I guess it's inevitable these days that you're going to see that. And of course, there was the fear, I suppose there still is the fear, that one of the animal rights groups...
I was going to say you might have taken too soon.
Might stage a protest, so they're on the lookout for that as well.
Yeah, and does Charles have any sympathy for those groups? Because obviously he is very much, climate aware, and that is something that he's very much been campaigning for in terms of climate change and awareness of it. If something like that happened, do you think he would have any sympathy for it?
Hard to say. I can't remember him ever speaking publicly about horse racing, for example, but I think I don't think he would support their efforts to stop horse racing as a sport for the reasons we've just been discussing. And it brings in a fair amount of money. It's an important part of the economy, and he is an animal lover, of course, but and he's very concerned about honeybees and red squirrels, saving red squirrels, whatever. But I don't think he's somebody who is going to embrace the whole idea of stopping horse racing as a sport.
Tolerance, I guess, tolerance levels and a time and a place, etc., etc. Okay, then. Well, we'll come back to Ascot in a bit, but obviously, if anything happens around you, then do let us know, Richard. But another poll has come out this week, and it's to do with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Now, Meghan Markle's popularity has apparently fallen, but Prince Harry's got a rating boost. We usually see Meghan and Harry together within polls, so this was quite interesting. And it's something that I wanted to bring to your attention, as obviously they've been hitting the headlines a lot recently. And as much as they are very much having their independent life away from the royal family, obviously do need to address they are still part of the royal family, whether they live in the UK or not. And I know lots of people do tune into the Royal Roundup from abroad. So what is the latest on this poll, and why is it different to any other polls that have been going on, Richard?
Well, it's a YouGov poll, so it's. I've seen, as you do on social media, some of the more rabid Harry and Meghan fans essentially accusing the polling companies of coming up with any result that people want, that they'll pay for or whatever, and it's sort of a lot of nonsense. I mean, you always have to distinguish between polls that are nationally representative and polls like, for example, the ones we'll sometimes run online, which are just random, not weighted in terms of national representation. But this is very much a nationally representative poll, and it surprised me because we haven't really seen anything of Meghan, so I'm not quite sure why she's suddenly fallen to an all-time low in the YouGov rankings. This is a measure of favourability, so you essentially have the number of people who have a positive view against the number of people who have a negative view, and she had fallen to minus 47. Harry had gone up a little bit. Again, I don't really quite know why, but the overall message is they are incredibly unpopular these days in the United Kingdom, and what a turnaround that is from the 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, when Harry was probably the most popular member of the royal family, and certainly, was regarded as a war hero. And then, when he and Meghan got engaged, they were incredibly popular as a couple. And they've thrown that popularity away in the UK because of their attacks on their family and their decision to stop being working members of the royal family, I guess is what you'd have to say.
Yeah, they've got so many, lots of these polls go ahead and they get so much coverage day to day internationally. Do you think that they'll even hear about this poll, Richard? And if so, what do you think they'll even think about it?
Well, I'm sure they will be told about it by their press advisors. That poll, that story has appeared in just about every UK national newspaper, as far as I can see this morning. And of course, one of the things it will do is make it potentially harder for them to earn money because their brand is sinking, certainly over on this side of the pond. And I've not seen much evidence that they're that popular any longer on the other side of the pond. So that they've lost. I mean, we should say this because we discussed this last time, and I think I was saying that it was at that stage just speculation that Spotify were going to dump Harry and Meghan. Of course, they have since publicly announced it and made a joint statement, and we had an executive from Spotify really derising them publicly. So they need to find other ways of earning money. But
is there ever going to be a place for them back in the UK? If they realise perhaps the Hollywood dream is not what it's, not what they signed up for. Would there ever be a place back in the UK?
Well, I'm sure the King would welcome them back. I mean, he's quite keen to heal that family rift, but it's obviously very raw at the moment. I mean, it's very noticeable that while I say he's keen to heal that rift, he hasn't met his son the last 2 times he's been over to the UK. And an interesting what-if question is if he and Meghan were around at the moment, would they be invited to Royal Ascot? Would they be? Well,
that's another thing. That's actually something I was going to come on to, because Harry, before Meghan, very much did get pictured at Ascot, and I think one year, Meghan did go with him to Ascot. Am I right in thinking that? Correct if I'm wrong.
Pretty sure you're right. I think I seem to remember that. Yes.
She did. And then obviously there are also big campaigns about various different sports and various different issues surrounding racing, which is brought up not by them but by many people. And then they stopped going. So I'm guessing Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be surprising to see them, just as we haven't seen. So far, anyway, Andrew and Fergie, or indeed their daughters. As far as I'm aware, I've been looking out for them. In fact, yesterday I stood in a spot where I know that quite often, if Andrew and Fergie aren't in the royal box, they will go and have lunch with friends nearby, and then they'll stand on a piece of lawn and bow and curtsy respectively to the royal carriages as they go by to the. Obviously, it used to be the Queen. I don't think Andrew came last year, if I remember rightly. And at the moment, there's no sign of him at this year's meeting. So,
would they need an invite directly from the King, or is this something, obviously being part of the royal family, they could just rock up to?
No, I'm sure they could just rock up. They'd need an invitation to go into the royal box, but I'm sure they could just rock up. And it's quite common to see members of the royal family. Princess Anne, for example, quite often you can see her having a picnic with friends down in car park number 1 on days when she isn't in the carriage procession. Same with Sophie. I mean, yesterday I was there and Sophie was there with her dad. Quite a sweet moment. She was standing there with her arms around her dad, who's 92. And it's very sweet. I don't think we had room for it in the paper in the end because there were so many other fantastic pictures of the King and Queen celebrating their win, and the other people in their fancy hats.
Yeah, no, there were some fantastic pictures which you shared on your Twitter with the lady with the bright multicoloured hat going on. That was quite something, but also a bit of a health and safety hazard, I would think, walking past her, because you'd be scared that you get knocked over.
That's Tracy Rose. She is an Ascot institution, and she's been coming here for 42 years.
Wow.
I mean, interestingly, on a I guess a point that goes back to again the Sussexes. Tracy is part of an organisation that is trying to encourage greater diversity here at Ascot, and she was saying that they're making progress, and it was quite noticeable yesterday actually the number of very gorgeous black ladies I saw in their fancy hats, and just generally people from ethnic minorities here.
Well, of course, it's the Windrush week.
Yeah,
as well.
it was Windrush Day yesterday, the anniversary. So that was quite interesting. And I always feel I have to explain this about Ascot because he's got this reputation for being, full of toffs, and which it is in the royal enclosure. But there is also, as you all know, if you've been here, Pandora, there's a huge swathe of the crowd that are from all other social backgrounds as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, there is.
And I have to say, as a reporter, there have been occasions when, often on a Friday actually, the story has been, because there isn't, traditionally, that Friday was often a very quiet day for royal attendance. It's not so this year. We used to go sort of looking for punch-ups down at the other end of the course, and you do see quite a lot of that. There's a lot of drunkenness. I mean, I was here one year, going back to Ascot Station, and a woman probably in her late 30s, a hat askew, she got her shoes off, was standing outside the station, challenging me and anybody else to a fight.
No! Stop.
I didn't take her up on the challenge.
No. Well, who would win, Richard? Who would win? I mean, I think sun, day drinking, very dangerous.
Yes.
And then by the end of the day, obviously, people are more tempted to stay, more drinks.
Yes.
I suggest you take the day off work afterwards. Is probably what I would say if you do go there. But as you said, it is a great day out, and it's nothing like I've ever been to.
No, it is. It is fantastic. I mean, as you can probably see from what I'm wearing, I'm not in the royal enclosure today. I was on Wednesday in top hat and tails, and we had a fantastic day there. Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to just say, in terms of the King and the Queen, they must be offered champagne the whole time. I mean, wherever they kind of go, I imagine a lot of the time they do get offered that. Are they big drinkers?
I don't think they are, actually. I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I'm sure they. Well, I know they like a tipple, but nothing too. The problem is, as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, is famously supposed to have said to her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, when they were at lunch somewhere, and the Queen was wondering whether to have a second Dubonnet and lemonade. Her mother is alleged to have said to her, "Are you sure, darling? Because you have got to reign all afternoon."
Oh, how good! How great is that? Okay, funny. Now, in terms of Andrew and Fergie, predictions, do you think we're going to see them by the end of the week, or again, no show?
Well, I'm gonna go. Okay, then I'm gonna risk making a fool of myself by predicting that we won't see them.
Okay.
So I'll probably walk around the corner now and see them there. But I think it's been noticeable that they haven't been on view at any of the public engagements. They weren't at Trooping the Colour, and nor were their daughters, and they weren't. Well, Andrew was at the Garter Day on Monday at Windsor, but not in public view. So he was in the castle having lunch with the other companions of the order, and was there to see the investiture inside the castle of the two new, one knight, one lady knight companion of the Garter. But he didn't come down the hill in the procession. He didn't go into St George's Chapel, as far as we're aware, because he's still persona non grata in terms of the royal family's public face, I suppose.
Difficult for the King as well, because that's his brother. But he also needs to listen to public opinion, doesn't he? Especially in the new reign. Okay. Yes. Well, last week we were looking towards Trooping the Colour, and now Trooping the Colour is gone. And for those of you who are royal watchers, well, you've probably seen all of the pictures, but this is kind of a bit of a roundup as to what happened. I personally thought, now this is just my own opinion, but Camilla looked a bit uncomfortable in that outfit. next to Kate, who is obviously looking fabulous as ever. And she really did try with that outfit. But I think after many, many years of Camilla being able to choose what she wants to wear, I can imagine, it is a bit of a change, isn't it, Richard?
Yeah, well, I mean, both she and Kate are royal colonels of regiments now, and I thought that was a really good effort to. I mean, Princess Anne has no compunction whatsoever about it. She wears the uniform of Colonel of the Blues and Royals. She seems to wear it at every opportunity, really. But some of the other royal ladies are not so keen on wearing military uniform. Just their personal choice. I mean, the late Queen, wore a uniform for many years to Trooping the Colour. It was only in the latter years, I think, that she stopped. And for whatever reason, Camilla and Kate have decided that they don't want to wear uniform. But that was a sort of halfway house. Personally, I really liked it. I thought it worked well. But I do know some people who thought who didn't think it worked well.
I think you're quite right in the sense that it was a good halfway point. I just think body language wise, I'm just not sure she was that comfortable. But you'd know more than I would, Richard. I mean, perhaps she was.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Well, let's see if she wears it next year or something similar. We'll know how comfortable she was in it or not then. But I mean, she's well used to dealing with the military. Her father was, served in the Second World War, and indeed she's just become colonel of his old cavalry regiment. A really proud moment for her, and I think that was one of the things her father said to her when she joined the royal family, is that he just really hoped that one day she would become colonel of his old regiment.
Oh.
So, and I know how tuned in she is to the military. I mean, she hadn't been. Her first regiment was the Rifles, and when she went to one of the first engagements, one of the senior officers said to me, "Oh, she's brilliant. She's better than any of the other ones we've had because, whenever this was when I think still when British soldiers were serving in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, and whenever a soldier got wounded, she would send a bottle of whiskey to him or her, and a note, keep in touch with the family. She's very good like that."
Yeah. No, and also when she got onto the balcony last week, I could see she was a lot more relaxed on there, actually.
Yes, yeah.
A lot more relaxed than on previous occasions. So she's well into the swing of things now, I think. Yes. But any other highlights from the day, Richard, looking back?
Well, the kids, I suppose. The kids were fantastic. Prince Louis pulling faces again, which just like a typical 5-year-old. I don't think anybody thinks anything badly. Anybody sensible thinks anything badly of him for doing that. I mean, just while we're talking about the kids, we've had a story yesterday that Prince George was looking around Eton on Wednesday. So I don't know if you saw that, Pandora, but
no, I didn't.
Yeah. So he went with his mother and father to have a look around. Don't really know much more than that. I mean, obviously, it's reinforced the speculation that he will eventually follow in his father's footsteps and his Uncle Harry's footsteps, and end up going to Eton. I mean, you don't start going there till you're 13, so he's still got some time to go yet.
I mean, how did we hear about this story? Because obviously, child, and they very much want a private life to do with their children. But obviously, it's some of this is in the public interest because Eton is not cheap.
No, it's £46,000 a year to send your kid to Eton. And I find it fascinating because the Princess of Wales is spending so much of her life talking about giving children a better start in life, and and part of that, she and her advisors have talked about reducing inequality, and there you have her children at a fee-paying independent school and almost certain to go to, an expensive fee-paying boarding school later on.
Yeah, I mean, always these positions, aren't there, Richard? You know, you've got Prince William as well, which we did talk about last week, who acknowledges his privilege and everything that he's had around him and still has around him. But there he is talking about homelessness. It's
yes, which I think we're going to be hearing a lot about next week. It's a slightly difficult sell for them, but what they will always say is that they're using their position which they accept as a privileged position to raise, highlight these huge concerns for our country. So.
Well, as you said, we'll hear lots about that next week, Richard. You have got to run off to go and see whether you can catch more of the Royals this afternoon.
Yes.
Any predictions for the day before you go, Richard?
Only that I will carry on my tradition of not actually placing a winning bet yet.
Oh, I didn't on Wednesday, but I sort of regret it. I kind of wish I put down, £2 or something.
Well, I was betting on the King's horses on Wednesday, and it just didn't happen. And then, of course, yesterday, because it was a really busy work day. I didn't actually bet, to be frank.
No,
and,
I
should have done.
You actually do some work down there. It does sound very glamorous, though, going. Okay, then, Richard. Well, I will catch you next week. Where you'll be, well, we'll find out. And have a fabulous day at Royal Ascot.
Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.
Bye.